Dominaria. Welcome home. In many ways, the release of Dominaria is a return for so many of us to not only Magic the Gathering, but for existing players to formats like Standard and Draft. With the release of Challenger decks, we are able to easily enter into Standard. With the upcoming Dominaria pre-release, we can get started on building our collection of awesome new Dominaria cards. Truly, these formats in Limited and Standard are set to explode in just a few short days. But forget all of that, let's talk about Modern! Presented here are the top 5 most powerful cards from Dominaria set to impact the Modern format. But before we get to the top 5, I have an honorable mention. Now, I know you're going to say I've just included this as an honorable mention because Modern Merfolk is my personal favorite Modern deck, but no. Even if that were not the case, I would be able to look at and evaluate this card in such a way as to say, yes, it is highly likely to see Modern play, and it just happens to be a card that adds some needed tricks to Merfolk. And that card, of course, is Merfolk Trickster. Merfolk Trickster costs blue and blue for a Merfolk Wizard with Flash. When Merfolk Trickster enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. It loses all abilities until end of turn. Tricks on a stick, this card is not just a gas, but I think it is true gas for the Modern Merfolk deck. There's just so many possibilities. Giant Tarmogoyf swings in, flash this out, strip it down to size. Block and kill and then have a 2/2 body, which will of course be beefed up by the dozen or so lords Modern Merfolk runs. Got an indestructible creature giving you trouble? Make that god immortal. No, not immortal, amortal, as in it'll lose its indestructibility. This also takes away things like flying and other evasion. Bring down that blink moth or make that unblockable agent blockable now. There's also something to be said for just flashing in Trickster during your opponent's end step, tapping down a blocker or two if Regery is in play, and having the body to swing in. The only real reason this is just an honorable mention and not on the top 5 list is because Modern Merfolk itself is far from the most impactful of decks. Forever tier 2, but we're always going to try and swim upstream, and maybe, just maybe, Merfolk Trickster is going to let us do that. But now let's look at real spells that are going to have a real impact in Modern. Number 5 is one that reminds me of something Mark Rosewater has said many times, which is that if they were to ever print actual, original counterspell for Modern, making that counterspell legal in Modern, that you'd know that R&D has all just been hit by a bus. Well, I don't know, were they? Because I think that Wizards Retort is essentially them just printing counterspell for Modern. Wizards Retort costs 1 blue for an instant counter target spell, but this spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a wizard, meaning that if you control a wizard, this is counterspell. So, for the record, there are a lot of wizard spells in Modern. Everything from Delver of Secrets to Curse Catcher to Snapcaster Mage. The list goes on and on. Turn 1 Delver means you're holding up original counterspell in hand with this. And if original counterspell is so powerful, so busted in Modern, that all of R&D needs to be hit by a bus in order for it to be Modern legal, well then, isn't that what this is doing? If not, it's really close, and I think it's really broken. And there's a lot of possibility for this enabling a brand new Modern deck. Is it Wizards, which has tried to get off the ground before, and may finally be viable, especially with the other Dominaria printing of Adeliz, the Cinderwind, where for 1 blue and red, you get a legendary human wizard. He's got flying, he's got haste, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, wizards you control, that's right, all wizards you control get +1/+1. Until end of turn. This really excites me. Wizard Tribal in Modern using cards like, I don't know, Reflector Mage, definitely Storm Chaser Mage, and so on. We're in Izzet, so we've got Lightning Bolt, and in this case, Wizard's Retort, or Counter Spell as it is, for old school powerhouse fun. The biggest thing holding this back reminds me of why my precious Merfolk deck just can't catch a break. Human Tribal and 5-color Modern humans is just too amazing. Sure, Wizard's Tribal may in fact be viable now, just as Merfolk has always put up a fight, and even won a few GPs, but when you look at optimizing it as best you can, you might as well just end up in humans. We shall see. What's in store at number 4? Well, it's a 5/4 that is not only going to go in a lot of green decks, but maybe, just maybe, will bring modern mono-green Stompy back up to the top of the tier. And that card, of course, is Steel Leaf Champion. Steel Leaf Champion is triple green. Whoa, that's hard for anything that isn't mono green. But we'll get there. It's an Elf Knight, and Steel Leaf Champion can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. How can you not love this card? A 5/4 face smasher you can't chump block against? This is strictly better than Leather Bailoff. Not necessarily a card that saw a lot of play, but I think that evasion that's added here is what's going to really make the difference. Aggro keeps swinging back, becoming a force to be reckoned with. Steel Leaf Champion works great with Collected Company, which cares not about power toughness, but instead cares about converted mana cost. Steel Leaf Champion's mana cost is within Collected Company range, meaning casting Coco in your opponent's end step and hitting 2 Steel Leaf Champions is going to be major bad feels as the turn passes to you. I especially like that Stompy is one of the more affordable lists in Modern. Maybe not for long, but to those who have been truly devoted to green, this card is a dream come true. Coming in at number 3 is a new version of the most powerful 3-drop Planeswalker in all of Modern. But will this new version of Karn be as powerful as Karn Liberated? Well, Ursa of Scion seems to think it will. Karn, Scion of Ursa, is a legendary planeswalker for 4 of any color. Its +1 loyalty is reveal the top 2 cards of your library. An opponent chooses one of them. Put that card into your hand and exile the other with a silver counter on it. For -1, put a card you own with a silver counter on it from exile into your hand. For number 2, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with. This creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Never mind that last ability. Karn is card draw. This version is less the beat stick as his liberated brother is in Tron, and more of a card advantage engine, which can be just as powerful with the right mind behind it. You're not just drawing 1 card per turn. You're drawing 2 and getting your pick of the 2 after just a few turns. Because as the cards in exile with silver counters start to pile up, you can take your pick from a very large selection of your library. That means that the Tron that this might go great in is Tron like Mono Blue Tron, already a highly underrated version. I don't know why more people don't play Mono Blue. And while I do think more popular Tron builds like Eldrazi might be able to make use of this Karn, it's the tier 2 decks that are going to take this card advantage and use it to climb back up to the top. Soul Sisters or Martyr Proc is going to absolutely love that card advantage. After all, white is probably the color that really struggles to get that sort of card draw. Again, don't focus on his ultimate. Not fun for a build around me, it's not gonna work. Just uptick in card draw and occasionally pull in the exiled card you need. By outdrawing your opponent, White Soul Sisters or Mono Blue Tron can finally punch through for the win. Very excited to see the effect this will have on the meta when they do. But all of this has really been mid-power level for Modern compared to our top 2. And coming in at number 2 is a card that was designed with hatred in mind, and I think specifically hatred of Tron. Damping Sphere, have you read it? It might as well say when this artifact comes into play, Tron can go get bent. Damping Sphere is an artifact for 2 of any color. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces 1 colorless instead of any other type and amount. Each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. So yeah, this is unreal, and right away, I think it's going to be a 4 of in almost all sideboards of any deck that not only has trouble with Tron, but other decks like Ad Nauseam, or heck, even Blue-White Control, as even Snapcaster is annoyed by this. As an artifact, any deck can make use of this too, which means a lot of decks just got answers for their weaker matchups. The only thing holding this back is that decks like Tron can respond to this the same way they did Blood Moon, which is to have an answer for it. Sphere can easily be blasted away, and then Karn Liberated or Ugin still hits right on cue. But I don't think it's going to be that easy after all, as this is much more versatile and cheaper than Blood Moon, and it affects a lot more than just Tron, so I feel very strongly this Thran artifact is going to be the new modern staple from Dominaria. Alright, here it is, the number 1 most powerful card from Dominaria for Modern, and it is A common? Yeah, a common, and a reprint to boot. But it's a reprint of a card that previously was not modern legal. So here it is, now reprinted in Dominaria, now modern legal for the first time ever, and that powerhouse card is Skirk Prospector. Skirk Prospector, a common, is 1 red for a goblin, and it has as an ability, sacrifice a goblin, add red to your mana pool. Can you believe the best card from Dominaria for Modern is a common? And before you ask about Pauper, we have had Skirk Prospector in Pauper since the format's very inception. Doesn't really see play, not powerful enough for our Legacy Light format, but it should really make an impact in Modern. After all, this could be just what Storm has been looking for when paired with Empty the Warrens. In fact, if nothing else, this makes Storm, which by the way is a great budget buy for Modern right now, all the harder to ban out of the format because a Grape Shot ban is just replaced with this plus Warrens. But Modern Goblins, which itself has been turning out great budget-friendly results lately, can also make a lot of use of this card. And as a lot of old-timers who remember the extended format are already saying, Dirty Kitty, a classic deck with a goofy name, that was best at applying major pressure with Goblin aggro, but then essentially storming off in an emergency combo, is now modern legal and making great use of cards like Fecundity. Hell of a powerhouse to reprint, no matter what shape it takes in Modern. But now I want to hear from you. What cards from Dominaria do you think are most likely to have an impact in Modern? Where are they powerful and why? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, Tolarian Community College t-shirts, Tolarian Community College playmats, coffee mugs, dice bags, lapel pins, and so much more is available in the student store at www.tolariancommunitycollege.com/store. So check it out and wear your campus colors with pride at your local Friday Night Magic. And this video is brought to you by my and many other people's local game store, Card Kingdom, a brick-and-mortar pillar of this community, as well as the Patreon support of viewers such as you. These are the people that keep Tolarian Community College going and growing strong. So thank you.